Barrett Brooks is with us. Breakfast on Broad, pre- and post-game live, Comcast Sportsnet Philadelphia. And Barrett, to you, watching that mess yesterday, what's the most concerning thing you take away from that effort?
The enthusiasm which the team came out. They did not come out like they were ready to play. Like they didn't have a genuineness of them wanting to play in that game, and that's the most disturbing thing right there. The lack of enthusiasm.
Yeah. So does that you've been on good teams, you've been on bad teams. The amount of enthusiasm or excitement or preparation you put into a game. How much does the head coach have to do with that? I mean, you were on what? You were on that last Ray team, weren't you?
Yeah, that 3-13 team. Yes, I was.
Yeah. So what was that like by this time of the year?
Well, I mean, it's
as opposed to what it was like.
Reflection.
As opposed to what it was like the year you won the Super Bowl.
Well, you rarely see. Guess what I'm saying? You rarely see a good coach with a bad team that's not reacting in that way. The two come tied. Good coaches have good teams. Bad coaches usually have bad teams. So the reflections you're getting right now from Doug is a direct reflection of what you saw on the sideline. It's a direct reflection of what you saw on the field. The lack of enthusiasm, it just wasn't there. And I can understand, you got Belichick and how he runs his ship. He doesn't show many emotions. But the respect factor and the pedigree is already there. At this point, you don't have that with Doug. So I really don't think that this team knows how to react with adversity. They haven't responded well to adversity. And I think that just comes with a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback at the helm.
Hey, Barrett, the question really becomes, is this a guy that's in over his head? Is this just a guy that the reality is they're just not very good? Which side of that coin do you go to? Because if you're going to keep moving forward and he's your guy, I mean, the quarterback situation is concerning because it seems that the quarterback's taking steps back based on the way that Doug is calling plays and coaching him.
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of Carson not being put in the best situation and them not running the ball the way they're supposed to be running the ball. You have to protect your rookie quarterback, whether it's with the offensive line, in which they're not doing because they have so many injuries at the offensive line. And the shakeup, the past 2 or 3 weeks has been, a major factor. And then you also have the fact I don't see the play calling that I saw at the beginning. In the beginning, there was a lot more play action. They ran the ball to set up the pass. Now we're seeing what Doug really wants to do. He wants to pass the ball. If you notice today, he didn't say anything about running the rock. He didn't say anything about it, not for real, in his press conference. That's because he wants to pass the ball. He wants to showcase a passing attack. He just doesn't have the athletes out there that can, that will garner him doing that.
Barrett Brooks with us. Barrett's Breakdown here on Monday on 97.3 ESPN. Mike asked me earlier, Barrett, the three people or three guys that stood out the most, maybe with lack of effort or guys that were scapegoats. Were there three guys that you saw yesterday?
Two of them being Zach Ertz and Leotis McKelvin.
Leotis McKelvin was in my list.
Zach Ertz was in that list?
Ole. Just let the guy go ahead and take a shot at your quarterback.
Yeah, and, I would have to say, it had to be another DB. But, I don't know. Who's your third?
My third was Connor Barwin since he's become the invisible man.
Well, I told people before, there's nothing to say, Connor's heart is not in it. He works hard. He is definitely not a heart issue. It's not an enthusiasm issue. It's not a guy not out there working. It's more so he's just out of position. I said before, it's a long season. And when you line up against a guy that weighs 330 pounds, play in and play out, it's going to be hard on you as a defensive end, especially when you're a linebacker that drops in pass situations sometimes, rushes the passer sometimes, and that's only a select down. But when you're, battling with a guy on the run, first, second down, and then you're asking him to pass rush, he should be one of those specialist type of guys that come in on third down or passing down, as opposed to being an every down defensive end. That's just my take on it.
Now, based on what Doug said, he came out and actually said not everybody played hard. Is that a mistake by him to come out and admit that?
No, I think he needed to admit that fact. It took him too long to admit that. I mean, he's got to let people know that his players do have some flaws. Everything was, peachy keen with him, and he's got to understand you can't always be the good guy. Sometimes you got to be the villain, and sometimes you got to call players out.
What's your take on Jim Schwartz and the regression of his defense? It's not a progression; it's a regression.
Well, I mean, he's got to understand you do not have athletes in the back end that can really cover guys for an extended amount of time. So you have to bring more than 4 guys. Just like what Fletcher Cox said, you got 4 guys rushing the passer, and they got 7, 8 guys. You do the math. It's not equaling what it's supposed to equal as far as guys getting double teamed. When you got guys that like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham getting double teamed, those are your 2 best pass rushers. Other guys have to step up, but I haven't seen those guys step up.
Talking with Barrett Brooks here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN, Barrett's Breakdown. We mentioned 3 guys. Were there other guys that you would like to highlight that you thought didn't maybe bring it?
You know what? As a whole, I didn't think guys played fundamentally sound. The fact that, you have a rookie DB out there, and, Mills, he's a tough guy. He's a competitor, but he's not – Underlay was supposed to come in and be that defensive back guru. Well, guys aren't turning their heads around to contest passes when they're getting thrown. Guys are getting beat with lack of technique. It's not necessarily them taking plays off. It's just they just didn't do the proper things in order to be good defensive backs. It's the second game in a row where teams have made sure they're throwing down the field because they understand these defensive backs won't turn their head, period, point blank. There wasn't a lack of really going hard. It was just technique soundness wasn't there. So, I mean, that was the biggest thing.
Doug yesterday, Barrett, I don't want to say he took a shot at all, but he did say, well, maybe we're not blitzing enough. Maybe that's something I need to go talk to him about. I mean, he kind of seemed like for the first time that he was almost not on board with the way the defense was being run.
Well, he can't. I mean, he'd be a fool if he said anything different. When you only got, he said it was 18 hurries. I didn't see those. I didn't read those. Pressures. I didn't see those. Maybe we were looking at a different game. But I definitely didn't see those pressures. So he's got to understand it. They've got to get off the field, 3 and out. Give this offense an opportunity to be on the field. I mean, the time of possession we've lost the last 3 weeks, and you can't go in to this season. You can't finish this season out with those type of numbers. And, Doug has to take a big blunt of the criticism. The throws 63 times. There was 63 pass plays called. 2 of them, actually 64. 2 of them were where he scrambled. 2 of them were scrambled. But the 1 third down in the first half, when they handed the ball out, like everybody was about to pass, that was a called, run pass play. But it was so messed up and the miscommunication that everybody but the quarterback thought it was a pass play. And that's got to be, kind of concerning as a head coach, especially with a rookie quarterback.
Never a good sign when all the offensive linemen turn around and wave their hands up like, what the heck is going on here? Now, let's talk about that O-line, Barrett Brooks. There's been some issues with the silent counts, the cadences, the communication between Kelsey and Wentz, and Doug was asked about that today. Did you get any more insight into why that continues to be an area that's breaking down?
Well, we're 12, 13 games into the season. That should have been locked down after at least week 1. Even though, this guy's just starting out, that communication should have been locked down. There shouldn't be that many mistakes, especially after the second game, which we played away in Chicago. So the fact that we're still going through those type of growing pains just goes to show this team wasn't prepared to play. And that's the biggest thing.
Preparation. Right. You just mentioned preparation, and I guess that's kind of the key word is they didn't seem like they were ready for this team at all. Paul Gunther just completely outclassed Doug Peterson yesterday.
Exactly. I'm looking at a team that, we all thought that the Eagles were a better team than Cincinnati. I mean, this is an undisciplined team, and I'm talking about Cincinnati. Cincinnati's the most undisciplined team that you can play against. Burfict is a guy that, he has nothing. He doesn't have his head screwed on straight at all. But yet, he showed enough composure to go out there and have one of the best games of his life against the Eagles. 2 interceptions, 12 tackles. This guy had a Pro Bowl game yesterday. So it just goes to show me that if that team is more undisciplined than the Eagles, and we had the most mistakes, it's a problem in the ranks inside that locker room.
Barrett, after the game, Doug said that he thought maybe part of the problem with Carson was mechanics. Then Carson stood up there and said, no, I don't think it's mechanics on the overthrow. Is that a red flag for you that a coach, and not only a head coach, but a former quarterback, and all these guys that are supposed to protect Carson and groom him along, that they're not even on the same page?
Well, they're definitely not on the same page. Anytime we're throwing 63 times in a game. I mean, come on, you can't ask your rookie quarterback to do that. That's more opportunities for him to fail. And Carson understands that. I just don't think I did that to my head coach. Maybe some guys need to be called out a little bit, but you don't go back and say something contrary to what your head coach is saying. I thought that was that was incorrect on Carson's part. But hey,
well, does he know? Does he know Doug said that, or they're not on the same page? Maybe he doesn't know that Doug thinks it's this goes back to the communication with Aguilar. I mean, you had to wait till Aguilar basically came out and publicly said he needed help before you figured out, hey, this guy's really struggling. Maybe I should talk to him and see if everything's all right. Maybe Doug is not a great communicator.
Well, it doesn't seem as though he's tied in right now with the pulse of the team. And I would thought he would have been more tied in since he is a player's coach. But, I mean, Nelson, I can understand your Nelson aspect. Because as a player, you don't want to have your dirty laundry, put out there like that. And when he did it himself, I mean, it kind of caught the head coach by surprise. Caught me by surprise. I wouldn't necessarily seen that. I've never necessarily seen that in my life as a player, just going out and just saying, hey, I'm just not ready to play. I've never seen that before.
BB, do you worry about Carson at all? Because he's a young kid. He's going through a tough time right now, adversity maybe for the first time, and his confidence, his swagger that he had early in the season seems to be gone. How do you see him handling this?
Well, I mean, I don't want this to turn into a David Carr situation where he gets beat up so much that he becomes gun-shy and shell-shocked and starts seeing ghosts, and it really inhibits his progression as a quarterback. The kid has a lot of talent. He's a really good player. We don't want him to be out there looking for ghosts and seeing things that's not there and going out there and really putting him in a position where he's running instead of going his progression as a quarterback. That's what I don't want to see. So, I mean, this could be a pretty bad situation if he continues not to grow and take advantage of this rookie season and all these reps that he's getting.
Hey, do you think it's odd? He was asked today if Laurie and Roseman expressed what kind of standard they're using to evaluate him. Do you think it's odd that he said, no, I got 100% support? They never, basically they said, this is a goal or this is something we would like to see. Do you think it's odd that he would not have been told, hey, this is kind of what we expect from our first-year head coach? We'd like to see some kind of progression, some sort of, step in the right direction. I mean, I find that to be a little odd.
Well, I mean, he's going to be held accountable to what he's doing. I mean, they're going to give him a short leash next year. But this year is just more so growing pains. We have to understand this is a coach who's only been coaching in the NFL for 6 years. And this is his first year being the head guy. I mean, he wasn't even the head offensive coordinator when he was with Andy. Kind of the same situation he's been put in right now where he's calling the plays instead of letting his offensive coordinator call the plays. It's the same thing in Andy. And I doubt seriously if Andy will allow him to call the whole second half without his say-so and his, input, when he was in Kansas City. So, I mean, this situation is kind of weird to me. Rookie head coach coming in, calling the plays.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, he's learning on the fly how to be a head coach.
Hey, do you think, and I think you and Seth were talking about this last night, but I kind of brought this up during the course of the week, last game they sit Aguilar, they use Treggs and Turner, and then don't put them in the game plan at all. This week, you put Turner into the game plan a little bit more, not Treggs at all, and Turner answers the bell. He goes out, has 6 catches for 80 yards, and says, look, I can handle, if you throw me the ball, I'll do something. Do you look at him not evaluating his own 53 and not understanding what he even has in front of him?
I see that a little bit. I see guys that are, getting an opportunity to play that aren't ready to play. The fact that, Leonis McKelvin is playing right now is crazy to me. There's got to be somebody, CJ Smith, somebody, to go out there and give me a better effort than what I saw there. So I don't think that evaluation of talent has been, any good. And then, on that side, on the other side of the ball, the opposite side of the ball, the fact that, you don't know what Treggs is, what he brings to the table. He only had 2 plays yesterday in which he could have, done something with. Paul Turner comes out, given an opportunity, catches everything thrown to him, running after the catch. He has more yak yards than Ertz has his whole career in just one game.
That's sad but true. Barrett Brooks tomorrow morning, breakfast on Broad, and pre- and post-game Eagles-Redskins coming up on Sunday. BB, we'll talk soon, pal. Thanks a bunch.
Take it easy, man.